Hi everyone, it's Joy here for Tailored Expressions. I'm excited to share with you how I made a vellum overlay using the Arched Nativity cutting plate. Now I'm going to show you all the products that I used. This is the Arched Nativity cutting plate. Then I'm using the Follow the Star die cut, the Arched Stacklets die, the Arched Masking Stencil, in reverse Christmas Simple Strips, and the Coordinating Simple Strips die. I'm going to be using Poppy Seed, Blue Corn, and Blueberry inks, along with VersaMark ink, the Sugar Cube ink refill, gold embossing powder, blender brushes, Sugar Cube, and Vellum cardstocks. Now I have a piece of Sugar Cube cardstock, A2 sized, and I have that taped down to my grid paper. I have the largest arched masking stencil taped down on top. I'm going to start inking this background up. This is blueberry ink that I'm laying down first, and it does look a little bit splotchy, but dye ink evens out as it soaks into the paper. I'm going to come in with blue corn ink and just ink on the outside edges, coming in a little bit further to the center, but still leaving that center the light blueberry color. I am also going to ink up a little bit heavier using that blue corn ink because I really want this to have a really light center and a really dark outside edge. I'm going to finish inking the outside edge with Poppy Seed ink. I am going to be careful to not cover up all of that blue corn ink, but as you can see here, it is just getting really dark and beautiful. So when I peel this back, we've got this really great arched background against this white cardstock. Now I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of the Sugar Cube ink refill, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to that on my work surface, mix that up with a really tiny paintbrush, and I'm going to splatter the background. I'm not worried about taping off the other area because it's not going to splatter too far. It's just getting right there on that background. And I love this white splatter look against that really dark blue background. I'm going to put that aside to dry, and I'm going to die cut a frame using the Arched Stacklets die. I'm starting with the largest stacklet die, and then I decided to go with the third largest so I could have a thicker frame. I'm going to tape that in place and then run that through my die cut machine. I will ink this up using the blue corn and poppy seed ink. I'm going to do that off camera, but I'm not going to add any white splatters to it, but it'll mimic the outside edge of the arch we already have inked up on our background panel. So now we have this great little frame that's going to go over the outside of our inked up background. Now here is the Follow the Star die cut, and I've die cut that from Sugar Cube cardstock, and I'm actually going to leave the buildings and the three wise men white because I think that would be really pretty on this background. Now I have a large piece of vellum and the Arched Nativity cutting plate. I'm going to tape this in place, and I have the cutting plate down a little bit from the top, so I have a longer top piece above my cutting plate. I'm going to show you right here of the vellum. We need that because we're going to fold that down to glue behind our card panel. Also, I don't want to die cut the top part, so I'm going to lay it onto my cutting plates for my die cut machine, and my top cutting plate, I'm going to have it down just a little bit so the top part of my cutting plate is not under the top cutting plate panel for my die cut machine, if that makes sense. I'm going to just add a little score mark to the top of that die cut that we did with the vellum. This is so we can fold down and make a little flap that will glue behind our inked up card panel. This is how we're going to attach this because vellum is see-through. You don't want to add any adhesive behind it. Also, I want this to lift up so you can reveal the scene behind it. So this is how that is going to look. So now let's glue our three wise men and the buildings behind our arched frame. I'm just going to use a little bit of tape runner and adhere that down and trim off the excess off of the sides of the frame. I found that this was just the easiest way to adhere this to my frame. Then I'm going to adhere this to our inked stenciled background, and now we already have what looks like a cute little scene. Now here is that star from the Follow the Star, and I'm just tapping that down on my VersaMark ink, coming in with some gold embossing powder, and I'm just going to ink or sprinkle that on, dump off the excess, and then heat that with my heat tool, and now we've got this beautiful gold embossed star. I added some adhesive to the top part of the card panel, and then I'm just going to slip this vellum overlay right over the top, center it in my card panel, and adhere it down. And then we've got this great vellum overlay. I'm going to add that gold star right to the top center of our image. Now here is the in reverse Christmas simple strips, and this is how it looks. It's the white sentiments on the black background. You have the simple strips coordinating die. That die cuts out all of those sentiments. I decided to add some foil to mine. You just add some foil sheets to the top of that, run that through your ink machine, and you've got some foiled sentiments. I'm going to adhere down this simple strips die, and as you can see here, I am lining up the white squares on the piece of cardstock with the open squares on the die cut, and that's how you know everything is going to die cut perfectly and is in place. So I'm making sure everything is nice and squared, and I'm just going to tape that down using some low-tack tape and then run that through my die cut machine. When I pull that out, I have all of these finished die cut sentiments. The one that we're going to use for this card says, "For unto us a child is born." Now you could adhere it to the top of the vellum, but I wanted to adhere it underneath to the little scene that you are going to see once you lift up that vellum overlay. I just used some tape runner to adhere that down. You still can see the sentiment even though it is behind the vellum, but once you lift that vellum overlay up, then you have that great little scene behind it. This card was super simple to make, but it is really, really gorgeous. I love the vellum overlay. I love the white images in the background, and then you've got that beautiful blue and gold. This turned out to be a really fantastic card. And then I added another cute sentiment on the inside that says, "Wishing you a very Merry Christmas." Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. You can find all of these products at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.